What's up, everybody, and thank y'all for joining the Chop Shop. And I'm here with the usual suspects once again. I got my boy Frank F Tank 58, James Piercy 11. Follow him on Twitter, and I got my boy Mr. Cooper, and we're gonna kick this pod off right. Got some intriguing topics coming up for you. Gonna bounce it off of everybody brain here, pick them a little bit, and we've seen Jabari Smith debut into the summer league. We've seen what he can bring to the table, and we got a lot of questions about can he actually play the five? Do he got the attributes to play the five? And I'm gonna kick it over to you, James. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I think to my mind, there's little question that Barry can man the five, like for spells, like in shifts, right? As to whether he's likely to be like a long-term starting center, it's a different question. I wouldn't rule it out. The game is trending positionless. If we want to run lineups that really are like three wings and two guards, that's something that people do these days. Like the Raptors just played Pascal Siakam at the five a lot last year. I think he's like their starting center. It's doable, but I don't know that he's ever going to be the type of rim protector that like a traditional five is. So if that's what we're looking for out of a five, I'm going to say maybe not. He'd have to put on some strength to be able to hold his man and not get pushed off the block and stuff like that in that department. I don't mean to take over the moderating duties, but I know Coop's got some strong opinions on this the last time that we talked about it. So I'm gonna offer to him to tell us why he's not a five, really.
Well, I kind of agree with you, James, where I think he can play it in shifts, but I think it really depends on the scheme that you're going to run. If you are going to run a purely switch scheme, then I think Jabari can be your five in the sense that he's the tallest player on the floor. In like a more traditional pick and roll scheme where you're having the five drop back against the pick and roll and you're having all the help from the different angles and stuff like that, and like the one fight over the screen, I don't think he's a drop big at all. I don't think that because he can't jump. Like I love Jabari. His vertical athleticism is like it's lacking for a guy who's his size. He's a great lateral athlete. He's a great athlete in other areas, but his vertical athleticism is not one of his strengths. And he's not traditional like that. He's got long arms and he's got great lateral mobility, so he can play well in tight spaces. But I think that ends up leading more to playing the three or the four in a more traditional scheme. I mean, we've kind of seen you can't really run a switch scheme for 48 minutes. I mean, you can, but your guys get wiped. You need real depth and you need the proper personnel to really do that. I don't think that really gives you a huge benefit when you could just have Jabari be an oversized three or a four and be able to lock up his man, dig a little bit. I think it's easier to teach someone to dig, especially with his mobility, because he's not the best off-ball defender at the moment. But I mean, I just think it's something that maybe you want to develop, maybe you want to figure out if it's there. But at the moment, just in the right scheme, but it's kind of a rare thing that you don't really want to have as your main option on defense.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And Kuba, you're actually really, I think it really depends on the scheme that the team is running. The thing I saw from the summer league is that he can play the five, but it is going to be dependent on the other people around him. In a drop, obviously, it'll be just criminal to put Jabari in a drop as a drop big in a pick and roll. That'll be something arrestable. I think for him, if you're going to have him playing that five, his strength would be either to be somebody that's a aggressive shower that can hedge real hard, then be able to have the athleticism to recover to his original assignment, or he's a switcher. And the intriguing thing about it is that you don't have to do that. I don't think that's going to be sustainable for 48 minutes, but I think in spots or in certain lineups where you're facing a team that has really good shooters, for example, that drop pick and roll is just too deadly to play against, like the Warriors. And we seen what happened when Capella got cooked by Steph and Draymond when he tried to play the drop in the 2019 playoffs, that to the point he was unplayable. But imagine that's Jabari out there. So in a team like that, I would switch those and be comfortable doing so. So I think it really does depend on matchup. I think the good thing with Alp and his limitations, they can almost help each other out. And we don't have to have Alperen closing every game. There's some games maybe Jabari closes with Tari and the rest of the guys, and some games maybe it's a Steven Adams or a guy that's just big that Alperen is the guy that's closing out with Jabari at the 4 or the 3.
Yeah, I think what was really cool you mentioned about hedge is that there are maybe 2 ball handlers in the entire NBA who can pass over or around Jabari and his length and size. You don't have to jump on a hedge. You shouldn't be jumping or you're going to get dusted. He just has to move out there, be long, move his arms, move his legs. Nobody's making it around a Jabari hedge, and he has the mobility to recover after doing that hedge. And like you said, I don't think that's even like a full-time scheme thing. Like you're not going to win a ton of basketball games with a full-time hedge scheme in the NBA, but it's just another weapon in your arsenal that you can just throw at teams, throw new stuff, throw new looks. And that's really how you win in the NBA, is having all these defensive options, that you can go to. You can have Jabari play the 5, and if it doesn't work, I guess we have Tari who can, rim protect a little bit, do more jumping, or have Bruno Fernando who can be more of a traditional drop. I think that's what's pretty interesting about the current construction is you can try playing Jabari at the 5 against basically every single team. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not world ending if it doesn't work.
I wanted to ask, do y'all think, guys, when you think of a big and the defensive side, do you think it's too much emphasis on rim protection, so to say? Because you can be effective and not be a true rim protector. Like Jokic, I don't think he's a rim protector. He just can play solid defense, be big enough, be in the way, put his long arms up, make it just hard to get the ball off and to see the rim. I think Jabari is long enough, and we thinking about Jabari this year, a 19-year-old. What about Jabari at a 23, 24-year-old that's already added up 20, 30 pounds of muscle? It looked like his shoulders and his body can handle that. I think he can have more of a Giannis type build than anybody I've seen, because he's got the body and the muscle mass. You can see he got the mass. He just needs to get it developed. Are we over emphasizing jump high block shots when it could be just more Tim Duncan-ish, be in the right spot, play good defense, put your hands up?
Man, to speak on that, I don't know if we're overemphasizing rim protection, if I would necessarily go that far, but one thing that you're making me think is, are we possibly overemphasizing the importance of vertical athleticism in rim protection? Like if Barry was 20 pounds heavier, muscle, right? We're talking like 23, 24-year-old Barry with his lateral athleticism and his length. Couldn't he probably be a strong rim protector, even though he can't jump high? Tim Duncan couldn't jump over a piece of paper, man. And he was one of the best defensive bigs in the league, right? So it's, I feel what you're saying. I love rim protection personally. I just always think, it makes everything else easier. You can scheme around everything else. You can cover up weaknesses if you have a strong rim protector. So I've always felt that way personally. But he could be a rim protector though.
I think
so.
I think making a comp to Tim Duncan kind of shows how hard it is to be a non-mobile rim protector when that's arguably like a top 5 defender of all time right there. I get the idea. I think that you have to have such ridiculous feel and basically perfect rotations. Like the margins for rim protection are so much smaller when you don't have that vertical athleticism. We just haven't seen Barry with those level of instincts. He's also 19, so you can't really put it past him. It's definitely something that could be there, but something that's super possible that you're banking on. I don't think that's something that you want to bank on, especially when he has strengths in other areas that, he's a top tier perimeter stopper. He's going to come in and be a top 5% stopper in the league because of that mobility and length. Why not just play into that? I think that as he bulks up, I think it'll become more of Jabari can close games at the 5 reliably. And you were talking about, Frank, these stronger guys won't be able to muscle him around anymore. And I think that's more of the value of playing him at the 5. Is just that you can close games, still have an elite offense, be able to switch and run all these different schemes on defense. And I mean, that's really it. I mean, I don't think he'll ever get the primary.
Sound like you're talking yourself into it, Coop. Really?
a little bit. You guys have you
Nah,
talked me into it a little bit, but
it's. I think I think with Coop, what I understand you're saying is that you can right now that won't be his strength, but I think what the vision is, he has the skill set, and we don't have to look as far back as Tim Duncan. There's two guys that I can see Jabari being is Draymond and what's his name on the Celtics,
Al Horford.
Al Horford. Those are guys. Al Horford is not a super athletic person. He is athletic enough, but he's a bigger body. But he does play the drop, and we've seen that bite the Celtics against the Warriors. But somebody like Draymond as well, that's not a super athletic. He's not tall. He's not really anything that you could say that should be a rim protector. He just has a good feel for the game. And I think from the summer league, I've seen Jabari do some things that nobody really knew he could do. Like the game against Chet being a 7'1" or however tall he is, and Jabari blocking him multiple times, even right at the rim on a layup. It's just about timing, and I think that's what made Tim special. Is like you just have to have the less athleticism a player has, the more IQ they have to have, and I think I can bank on that for Jabari. And if he can get to the point where he has that feel for the game, like you said, Coop, that he can make those reads, rotate. That's really all you need. And if you can have that, then you can have somebody that's an elite all-around defensive player of the year type of level player. And I think that's really what's so exciting about him playing that role as the team's quote-unquote five.
Are we looking too much at the defensive side? Because he brings a ton of advantages on the offensive side as well.
Yeah, the
That's great.
offensive side is sort of where I imagine him playing the five more as a younger player, because especially like in the Silas system that he ideally wants to run with the pop big, I think that's Jabari. He did not look good as a roller in summer league. I think those were probably his worst usage possessions in the over the entire stretch of games. It was every time he was asked to roll, he just kind of looked lost. I think that's something that you can develop as a roller. It's just tough when you don't have vertical athleticism to be like a roller like that, especially because he doesn't have the playmaking vision to be like a short roll passer at the moment. But I mean, having him as a popper, as someone, I want to see him run off of like more movement, be more of a mover off the ball. And if you have that guy playing as your nominal five, being defended by centers because there's no point in him guarding anyone else, that is a huge advantage. But I just don't know especially with the current roster construction, like what's stopping a team from throwing the five on like a Jayshawn Tate or a Nawaba or even like a KJ Martin, something like that. So you kind of lose that advantage. Maybe, if like you were talking about playing him at the five with like Tari and three other shooters, if Tari gets his shooting up to about league average, then the five has to guard Jabari or Tari. And that's just like, I mean, you're dead either way. But I mean, I think to start playing offensively, the five is going to be really fun for Jabari.
So,
what
you got, James?
Yeah, I'm having visions of Bari like in horns action. They're like coming off ball screens and stuff, and Nikola Jokic just chasing him around all night. You know what I mean? And like it looks pretty good in my head for sure, man. But yeah, it's his shooting's exciting. I agree with you that he didn't look great as a roll man. That's one thing. Like he's much better in pop actions. Maybe that's just comes down to bulking up as well, though.
Yeah, I also agree with that. And just I'm looking at his synergy stats from summer league right now. They have him as in transition, he was very good. And that half court, he was below average. And we saw he struggled a lot. Most of his strengths in the half court setting were in what's it called, as the roll man when he popped out. And when he rolled, he had a couple, I think towards the end of summer league, he started making a couple plays. I don't know which team they played, if it was the Spurs or one of the teams, where he had the drives where he was laying it up and getting fouled. I think for him in our offense right now with Silas playing that five role, it's not as effective to me as people would think. Just being able to pop is not enough to play the 5 and a 5 out offense. Like you got to be able to pass, and that's one weakness he has. He's not a great passer, and being able to make those reads once you are either popping out. Sometimes they might start trapping Jalen, and then it's a short roll where the big has to make a decision. And if he's not a great reader of the court, that's going to hurt us. So honestly, Alp is a better five right now than Jabari is, even though with a shooting acumen. I just think that's a lot of his offensive game is so raw right now that to really see the benefits of him as a true five on offense is going to take some time. But him being on the court in a pick and roll with Sengun and Kevin Porter to be that pressure, gravity pressure, I think that's really where you're going to see. Because when those guys come in to help on the roll man or to stunt on whoever the driving the ball is, having him standing there is just so much pressure on the defense that it's just going to make our offense just that much better.
Yes. So pretty much to sum it up, we all agree he's capable in certain actions, certain sets to play the five. But as a fixture, long term type career, the five, we don't see that.
Well, I'm not going to say career, but I think just right now, it's going to take time, bro. That's what I think for him.
Yeah. I think the ideal. Oh, James, you can go.
You go.
Okay. I think the ideal Jabari can play the 3-4 of the 5. And that's sort of the beauty of it, is that he's 6'11" and can lock up threes, and then can also switch and defend the big man and use that length and deter passes and shots on the inside. Being able to do that within the same possession, just incredibly, incredibly valuable. Fits with every single type of team, every single kind of lineup. That is the ideal Jabari Smith defensively. We'll just see if the 5 part of his game develops, if they really make that a fixture of his development plan. This year we'll see what the team wants him to do moving forward.
Right. So we will see. That's all we can say. Like we don't really know what Silas is how they envision on really using him. So it is intriguing to see. He brings so many upsides to a lot of different situations of where are certain situations are they going to try to maximize his value and not try to fit him into just a system, to make everything run like clockwork, but it's just make sure we exercise his maximum value on the court. And is it at the 5 or is it at the 4? We'll see. Time will tell. He's just so young. Moving right along, we had some we made a little video about Jalen Green comparison to Ray Allen, the young Ray Allen, and so many people was like, y'all
they were
tripping.
firing you up, bro.
Man, like I got so much flack for the young Ray Allen comparison. I was hearing, he's more like Kobe, MJ. Man, I just want to pick y'all brain and think, like, what do y'all think his best comparison so far for Jalen Green?
I can rock first. Let me see. Mine, I'm gonna say is it's not a full comparison. I'm not, because it's the player that I'm gonna say, they're not as great of a shooter, but I think Russell Westbrook right now, and I know that's gonna shock a lot of people. I just think that in making we've been doing a lot of like film analysis this summer in the off season. And the more I watch Jalen, the way he just attacks the rim and the speed and explosiveness he has really reminds me of like the prime Russell Westbrook. And the way teams play him is the same way. A lot of times they try to play the drop on him, and he didn't really figure out like how to navigate that until towards the end of the season. And if you guys remember when the season started, they'd be playing the drop and he would just barrel into it, right into the big, and throw his body, lose the ball. Then it was towards the end of the season where he started understanding that the pace, change of direction, being able to even kind of fake the drive and pop back for a 3. When he started manipulating the defense on that, just watching old Russ tapes, man, that's really like Russ was like teams. The bigs trying to play the drop on Russell Westbrook in his prime was impossible, because before you could even take one step to backpedal, he was already at the rim. And the thing that he does really well, that really reminds me of Jalen, reminds me of him, is that when he drives, he can change direction at the drop of a pin in full speed. And that is so hard for a big man to flip their hips to get back into position to even keep that, because they're always out of position. And Jalen really, if you watch towards the last few games, that's one of the big things that he developed is that ability to change direction in the paint, change his pace of speed, and being able to finish at the rim. And I think that's only going to get better. So I'm going to say young Russ right now for my comp.
What about you, Jay?
Man, that's interesting, Frank. I like that a lot, man. It's obviously it's kind of coming out of left field, right? But it's like a cross positional comparison. But I like it. It's true. Like they're just you can't drop on him because he gets to the rim before the big gets there every time, right? My comparison, I would also say, is not a full comparison because he doesn't fit the physical profile of the guy I'm going to say, but I see a lot of Tracy McGrady in him personally, like prime Orlando McGrady. He's a 3-level scorer with like a high feel for the game, kind of a deceptively high feel, who like the Jordan and Kobe comparisons, obviously I would love to make them. The thing is, he's got a long way to go in terms of like footwork and like getting in the mid to high post and like using head fakes to create space, like we haven't seen a lot of that from Jalen, and we didn't really see a lot of that from T-Mac either. He kind of just used like his burst and verticality to just get what he wanted, So that's the comparison I like. I mean, I wish he was like 6'8", but he's not. But other than that, I see a lot of crossover there. And I think young Ray Allen's a really good comparison too, man. People sleep on how good Ray was in Milwaukee. Like, that was a really good player, man.
Yeah. Man. Go ahead, Coop.
I don't have the same level of historical acumen. I'm a little bit young for that kind of stuff. But more of a modern day player comp. I've really liked the Zach LaVine comp. I think the levels of athleticism is pretty similar. They're different kinds of athletes, where Zach is like a bit more raw and just like pure power, whereas Jalen's is a little bit more controlled, a little bit more finesse in there. But just both elite shooters. I think Zach LaVine being one of the best movement shooters in the league is kind of a slept on like skill that he has that allows him to play off ball a little bit better. And I think that's something that Jalen could learn to do, just because of how well he moves, how well he started learning to manipulate the defense with his body as the year went on. I think they're both pretty solid ball handlers, but not like guys who you want doing your primary ball handling. And I mean, if he ends up as that kind of level of player, with hopefully a little bit better, because we're all praying for him to be an all-timer, all NBAer. But being a Zach LaVine type of guy is what I saw going into the draft and in the G League, and especially this year as he's grown. I think he's even ahead of where Zach LaVine was at the same age. He came in a little bit more developed, a better shooter, a more interesting athlete. I think he's got a little bit more feel for the game. That gives him a little bit of an edge too. But that's my more modern comp.
And to add real quick to that Zach LaVine thing with Zach, his first few years, he was very raw on offense as well. And people forget his development as an offensive player is really remarkable from where he started. And I think I was talking about this in the past, was that Zach LaVine, when he came in, just athleticism, a lot of using his athleticism as his main bread and butter, but as he developed the post game, a turnaround, using the head fakes, as you kind of talked about, James, adding all those things, using the glass on a lot of his shots, being able to finish really well at the rim. And those are things that came later on in his career. And I think, like you said, Jalen's a little bit ahead of schedule on that. And we've seen that where these wings or guards that are great athletes take a couple years to really reach their offensive ceiling. So I think that's a great comp, and hopefully his development is accelerated.
Yeah, I'm going to defend my stance on young Ray Allen. I don't care what nobody says. I looked at the numbers. Ray Allen averaged about 17 points a game his rookie year too. He took a leap, and I think he averaged right at 21.5, almost 22 points a game his sophomore season. Look at the Bucks was rebuilding at the time. They ain't really have nobody. Everybody was leaving them, and Ray Allen was their number one pick. He actually is 6'5", 6'6", just like Jalen. He was only like 195 coming up out of college. He actually came in. His shot was already established, and he had a 40+ vertical. So get off the athleticism. Ray Allen, they didn't call this dude Jesus Shuttlesworth and make a movie about him, and he got on a movie with Denzel Washington
Yeah.
as a rookie coming out of he was it. So everything about Jalen, like I see it in Ray Allen. He wasn't a strong defender, just like Jalen. They gonna pick on Jalen just like they used to do Ray Allen. But when it comes to the offensive game and the evolution of Ray Allen, don't act like I think a lot of guys are young like Coop, not calling Coop specifically out, but they just don't grasp about how good Ray Allen is and how great of a career Ray Allen really had. That's not a knock on Ray Allen, anybody to call him a young Ray Allen. Like
Yo,
that's actually that's a good compliment.
what it is, dude, is that people have a lasting impression of Ray Allen from the Celtics teams, I think, right? Yeah, because he was just a catch and shoot player for those Celtics teams, but like that is not who he was in Milwaukee, man. He was insane, like he was really, really good. Also, I think there's a tendency with player comparisons where it's like, if you say he's like a young Ray Allen, you're not saying like that's his limit or he's never going to be better than Ray Allen. You're just saying like he plays like Ray Allen. Like if he's even a slightly better Ray Allen, we got ourselves the best off guard in the league, probably, or one of them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the younger NBA fans, they like Space was saying, they see the end result of a lot of these older players, but they don't remember a lot of guys that people see as old players now in the league. When they were young, they were dunking on people. They were, it's a lot of like players that kind of molded into these casts or types as they got older and their game got more refined. But most of these dudes, I mean, I've seen people wouldn't think a guy like Stephon Marbury used to poster dudes. But when Stephon came out, he used to put a lot of remind me of like John Morant. Like they used to put guys on posters. Like these are the athleticism that a lot of these NBA players have. That I think that's what's throwing people off. But like you said, Ray was a bad dude. One of my favorite players growing up.
I was gonna say Penny too, but Penny the injuries, man. I don't even want to think about injuries with Jalen.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna even put that on Jalen right now. So I guess we all come to agree he ain't like nobody.
Yeah, that's right.
We all got totally different answers, man. Like
he's a little bit of Russ, a little bit of Zach LaVine, a little bit of Ray.
He's gonna
morph to superhuman. Mix that in, and maybe he'll turn into Jordan or something. So we'll see.
The only thing is, like, that's what I was about to say. The only reason why I'm not gonna put Jordan or Kobe onto him because I don't see the defensive side in the decent. I don't know if he gonna be able to reach all first team defensive capabilities
or defensive player of the year.
That
Mike was.
And real quick,
Jordan, man.
And real quick, James, the point you made about the footwork, that is, to me, that's the main thing. He doesn't have that skill level that Kobe came out as a basketball connoisseur, like as a kid. Like if you hear the stories about him, his post footwork game, he modeled it after Jordan's. I don't see that in Jalen. He's not his bag isn't that deep right now. And I think, maybe it can, but I can't give him that comp right now just because he doesn't have that polish.
Yeah, just one last thing, unless y'all have anything else before we move on, is just Jalen Green. As what's really interesting is that he's this super, like almost common top level archetype who doesn't really fit, like none of these scoring centric two guards, mega athletes. They don't really fit what Jalen was like as a prospect because when he was 17, maybe he's closer to like a Zach LaVine in college where he was all raw athleticism, not as much of the high skill level, high feel. Then that senior season, he basically learned to shoot. It was bonkers. Like he's been on this crazy growth trajectory. And I think that's kind of lost is that he's almost having, that leap a little bit early. He's ahead of schedule, and there just aren't, and there's not like a mega athlete two guard that came in at the same level of shooter as Jalen Green, who was that same level of athlete. There were guys like Devin Booker who were maybe better shooters, but Booker's not the same level of athlete. He's a bit more of the footwork, like, oh, I'm going to get you moving one way, hit you with the spin. It's a deeper bag. But Jalen Green's combination of shooting and athleticism just isn't really something that we've seen in a prospect before. And it's going to be really interesting to see his journey, see how he develops, and where he goes from here.
Sound like we selling him short then. Coop
We
predicting
could
somebody that's
be.
gonna
We
be
could
like
be.
he's gonna be better than Jordan. Then he's already ahead of schedule of everybody else at this level. Truthfully, you right. That's why I was so hard to everybody I was looking at. I had to put a 3-point ball on him because he can shoot the three, and he can blow by everybody. It's kind of like God's gift to a shooting guard wrapped up in Jalen Green, like in his limit, his limitless what he can eventually turn out to be. And I agree. And speaking of young teams and players and everything, we're gonna expand it and go across the NBA landscape and look at teams to watch for in 2023. Now, we're not talking about teams that's gonna eventually win the championship or anything like that. It's more of a young core. Let's evaluate the young talent that's on everybody's team and the outlook of the let's say the next 5 years. The next 5 years, who you think is going to be able to make some noise? And we'll start with you, Frank.
Yeah, I think my team is. I'm probably going to take somebody's team is Detroit. I love what they're doing in Detroit. I mean, they're in a. I think the way I view them, they're a year ahead of us as far as their timeline. So we're about where they were last year, right? And so they're a year ahead of us. I think what they try to do this offseason is probably what we're going to try to do next year, which is make plays for a free agent if they can land one, and if it's not there, just kind of go on with your business as usual, which I think was really smart on their part. Once they moved Grant out of and created that cap flexibility for them to be able to take on any of these big contracts that were floating around, they didn't see anything, but they have the athletes and the team that they've drafted to be able to just keep going on their trajectory. I love what Cade has flashed. I think he's going to be a star. Probably going to be a top 5 point guard in the league at some point in his career. Them getting Ivy is interesting, and I think Coop has pointed out. Obviously, Ivy he's going to be a project and somebody that's going to have to really learn to play off of Cade, because I don't want in crunch time or in certain situations I want Cade to have the ball. But Ivy brings them a dimension that I see of almost like the 1-2 punch of James Harden and Russell Westbrook when they play together. Of you have this dynamic athlete that could really just be a transition demon, and then you have this half-court cerebral guy that can like slow the game down as need be. So I think it's going to be up to their coaching staff to be able to utilize all they have, and they have Bay and drafted. Coop was the big they drafted from
Jalen
Duren.
Duren.
Yeah, Jalen Duren. That's going to be interesting. I think they have some decisions to make about who's going to be their true big, because they it's a little crowded there. With I think they have about 3 or 4 centers that could possibly play. But I love what they're doing. I like to see them take a leap this year. I actually think they're going to be in the 10th, 9th spot this season. I just believe that they have that roster. So I really love. I think I'm really high on bullish on Detroit right now. That's my team to watch out for.
One question is Cade a point guard or like point forward? Is he more like a LeBron archetype, or he's a
he's a point guard. I don't see him.
He's in everything. That's the cool
he's
part about Cade.
He's an all around just a player. The good thing about him, he plays defense too, and I think that's one people don't really know about Cade. He is a great defender. He has the length. He's very strong. His body type is just bows as somebody that could guard multiple positions, and reminds me of a bit like Jason Kidd, a little bit. You just hope his shot gets better. He's not very efficient right now, but he's a young guard. I think hopefully that's something that he works on over time and just develops that. But I really like him. I think he's going to be a star.
Right on. What about you, Coop?
Well, I'm glad Frank didn't steal my team. I'm gonna go with the Orlando Magic. I'm a huge Orlando Magic fan. Drafted Paolo Banchero this year and Caleb Houston, which I think just adding more forwards to this team that is already overstocked, arguably, with forwards and guards and wings. I mean, they have too much of everything at this point. But they don't, other than Paolo and Franz, who I think that is like an elite, like one of the best cores in the league. People kind of sleep on 2 6'10" guys who can ball handle, score at all 3 levels, defend adequately. I think Paolo's at Franz's level, but I think he's better than people gave him credit for in the pre-draft process. I mean, that is an elite team. And you have all these random connector bets around Paolo. You know, you have like a Chuma Okeke, kind of a shooting forward defensive guard. You have Jalen Suggs, who they drafted pretty high last year. You know, I wasn't the highest on him, but next to Paolo, that is an awesome, awesome fit. I mean, they have RJ Hampton, who might be something. If not, you can just trade him. They have one of the best young centers in the league on a great steal of a deal. Wendell Carter Jr. I also have Mo Bamba, who's a little bit of a divisive figure in this group, but is a solid prospect. I mean, he's 7'1" and can block the shit out of the ball and can shoot a little bit. And I mean, there's just so many options for this team, because when your core is 2 6'10" dudes who can do it all, you can build whatever type of team you want around that. They can go humongous and like play Franz at the 2 because he can do that because he's one of the most mobile dudes on the entire planet, and then play Caleb Houston at the 3, Paolo at the 4, Wendell at the 5, you know, and you don't lose much offensively. You maybe lose some stuff defensively from having that big of a group, but I think that amount of size and mobility, you just can't really do anything against it, right? And that's kind of been Orlando's bit for like 10 years now. But I think they leaned into the bit this year, and they made themselves a better team by adding more versatility to the roster, finally getting that star, that centerpiece that they've needed. And I'm just so excited to watch them this year. I think they'll still be bottom of the East because Paolo's a rookie and is going to be their centerpiece, and that's just not a recipe for a good team. As much fun as this team is going to be, and as fun and good as they're going to be some nights, they're going to be bad, but they're going to be really fun in the next few years, and it'll be interesting to see what moves they make to condense the roster, figure out who they're going to put next to their core.
Yeah, I like Orlando. You kind of stole them from me. I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna have to go look at who's available now.
Hey, Space, you can have Sacramento, bro.
Hey, on the cool, I was thinking about them too. It's kind of like I want them to make the playoffs, but I don't want them to make it before us, so I'm not gonna pick them. You know? What do you think, James?
First of all, man, I want to touch on the Magic with one point, because there was one name I wondered if Cooper would say or not. I don't necessarily blame you for not saying it, but Jonathan Isaac could be a real swing piece for them, in my opinion, man. Listen, dude, when I truly believe that Isaac was the best defensive prospect I ever saw prior to all the injuries. I know he's like a mega dude and everything, but let's just try to table that, for a second, right? But like, to me, a more intriguing defensive prospect than Evan Mobley. Just like a little more ability to actually like lock down the perimeter and be a good rim protector. And like with the healthy Jonathan Isaac, do you think there's a role for him? I'll make an open question. Do you guys think there could be a role for that dude if he's able to get healthy? Huge if, but you know.
And I think there has to be, right? Like he is just that good defensively.
Yeah.
You can run him, like we were talking about, having that ability to just play massive dudes at the 5 and have scheme versatility. You can do that with Isaac. Or you can have him at the 4 and Paolo as a drop or whatever you want to do. In my opinion, you cannot have too many of these elite defensive 6'10" wings. It's just not a thing, right? Especially when you have one like Franz who can play, in my opinion, the 2 through 4, and Isaac who can guard literally anybody on a basketball court.
Yeah.
Like it's just bonkers. He is insane. I mean, I even forgot Markelle Fultz, and I think he is like a legit player. I think people kind of sleep on him because he got hurt and the weird shoulder stuff, all that, but he is a player. He was great when he came back from injury last year, and I'm really excited. I think he's the best guard on their roster by like a huge margin. Really, really excited to watch him. And, maybe if Isaac comes back healthy and he stays healthy and Markelle's healthy, maybe that team is pretty solid, because then Paolo's kind of insulated by more veteran players, and maybe they still have Terrence Ross and whatever. But, it just depends on the direction they go. Like I said, they have boundless opportunities, and they can go any direction they want. So there's going to be tons of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy real quick, it's crazy that Orlando has the team that the Raptors have been trying to build for like a decade. Like they literally have the high level talent. You give that team to Nick Nurse, they're probably a playoff team because they have all those forwards that can do everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. Let me grab it back and say that I do think the Oklahoma City Thunder deserve a shout out in this conversation.
I knew this would happen. I knew this would happen.
Well, they got the best prospect in the league right now, probably in Osmond Yang. So no, but listen, they do have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? Like that's nothing to sneeze at. And I don't really think Giddey is a future like all-star player, but he is like a nice, valuable utility player, right? I'm also a Holmgren believer. And then beyond that core three dudes, they've just got a ton of guys that like have really high ceilings and really low floors. But like if even one of them hits, then they could be a dangerous team, right? It's gonna be Jang, but I guess it could be Darius Baisley in another world, you know? Like they're interesting. If it goes well and it clicks, I think they could be a powerhouse, but like it might not, you know. Whereas Orlando, I think is like a safer bet. Detroit as well, a safer bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I like OKC's talent. I hate how they've managed it to a degree because they've drafted like 4 guys at all 4 of like the spots that they like high field, versatile, big center. And all these guys have the exact same needs developmentally. Like you drafted JRE, and then this year you drafted JRE, but a little bit younger in Arkansas's Jalen Williams. And, you know, do you even have room for that guy? Because you have Chet, who's going to be taking a massive amount of minutes. And then are you going to play JRE and Jalen Williams, even though they're pretty much the same player? And then you have all these lanky weirdo forwards and all these massive ball handlers that it's kind of questionable if they can play off ball, like Santa Clara, Jalen Williams, Ousmane Dieng, even like a Dort or a Trey Mann. You know, you have all these guys that are just so similar and have the same needs. I really like the player types that they've drafted, and the players that they have drafted are really good. I just don't think that they have a real plan for them outside of get the good players in, see who sticks around Shea. Hopefully we get Wemby and then we move. You know, yeah. That's what's kind of scary about them. I think they're awesome, and they have the assets to just like, oh, we're going to be good this year. And they can just be good because they have that many assets, but just not the biggest fan of their strategy.
Yeah. And since y'all all took all 3 of my teams, I get 3 teams. I'm going to be looking at, they not really young since y'all took them all basically, but the interesting ones at least. I'm gonna go with the Charlotte Hornets. I'm interested to see, you know, the progression of those young guys and see how this whole Miles Bridges thing is gonna affect the locker room, possibly, because he was a cog over there. He was gonna be, you know, maxed out potentially. And I'm just gonna keep my eyes on them. I'm gonna keep my eyes on Atlanta Hawks because I really want to see how DeJounte and Trey is gonna really mesh together. I think that's gonna be interesting, especially if they keep Capella and they can really utilize Capella. They got to get more out of Capella, like really. And John Collins, I want to see more out of him. Like he had that one series 2 years ago where he just went off, but he kind of been falling off. Like I think they really tried to shop him, but I don't think he was like Christian Wood. Nobody really wanted the baggage for his contract because he's getting paid a nice little bit. And the Hawks, I think they really interesting to me. And I would say the Toronto Raptors. I want to see their growth and what is like. It's kind of seeming like what is Fran VanVleet gonna do? Like he's a champion. He already won. I'm pretty sure he's gonna want to win again. I don't know how close they think they are to winning again and competing and seeing how their roster is gonna shake out. Is he gonna stay healthy? He's been hurt, banged up the last couple years. Like it's kind of interesting over there because they got a lot of same archetype type guys, like y'all was saying, a lot of tall wings. Are they gonna get a point guard? like I would have tried to trade for Kyrie, even though I think Kyrie would have fit in just so good with them boys. Like, yeah, Kyrie.
Kyrie can't travel to Canada. So.
Yeah,
So I
think he's banned from
Yeah.
Canada, but
Yeah.
Where he's not
Man,
banned from, man. Like,
I'll say this as the resident Canadian, the read that I'm getting is a lot of Raptors fans feel like it might be time to move for Van Fleet, man. I hear that from my guys all the time. I don't give a shit, but they talk to me about it anyway, you know.
yeah, like I said, that's an interesting dynamic that I would like to keep my eye on. As far as them three is really ain't nobody else really interesting to me, as far as that. But we're gonna move it right along, and we got Coop's corner coming right up, and Coop, you're gonna lace them up with the early, not too early 2023 early draft pick segment.
Yeah, so we can just do a little bit on the Rockets picks this year. I think the Rockets will have their own pick. Next year is the year that I think it goes to OKC, or is it a top protected pick, something like that?
I think it's top 4 protected in 2024.
Top 4 protected. So we have our own pick this year. Great year to have it. And I think the Rockets are pretty inarguably going to be a bad team. There's all this talk about it's a race to the bottom for Wemby because the Spurs bottomed out and the Jazz are probably going to suck. But I mean, like Frank was talking about, Detroit, who is one of the worst teams in the league this year, is probably going to be better. They added real NBA players for cheap with that deal with the Knicks. They got really good fitting talent. They're led by some great young players, and they have real vets around them and a real stable ecosystem to play in. Right, that's going to be a better team. The Jazz haven't traded their best or second best player, however you want to see it. They haven't traded Donovan Mitchell. They're still trying to compete, still trying to be good. The Kings still trying to compete, still trying to be good. They didn't even make the playoffs in the West. They did everything they can. They drafted Keegan Murray, did all this stuff. Portland still has Dame. I mean, they messed up their draft pretty heavily with Shaedon Sharpe, but I mean, they still are trying to be good. All these, I think people kind of underestimate the drive to be good in the NBA. I would argue there's only like 4, 5 actually tanking teams in the NBA, or teams that are going to be actual bottom feeders. And that's us, because there is no structure. As good as the talent is, there just isn't any kind of veteran structure here. San Antonio, because they bottomed out, because they realized that they're kind of running the treadmill of mediocrity. OKC, because that's their entire plan. And then the Magic, who we talked about, and the Pacers, who are basically entirely led by young players who can't really dribble. So, I mean, they're like, people are like, oh, half the league's going to be trying to bottom out to get Wemby. And I just don't think that's true. So I think our odds at like a top 3, 4, I mean, I think this is a 5-man draft. And if we're competing with 5 other teams to be at the very bottom, sounds like we're pretty close to guaranteed to get a solid pick. And then we also have the Bucks pick, which, I mean, we can hope, they're going to be bad, but with the Iron Man Giannis and a great surrounding group of talent and just so many young, random, good contributors up and down that roster. They got Marjon Beauchamp this year. They somehow got younger, despite being just a great, great contender. I mean, that pick is probably going to be in the 20s somewhere. We can hope and pray that they have a Nets and it ends up being a near lottery pick, but I just don't really think it will. What do y'all think about that Bucks pick?
Yeah, I think
it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be between 25 and 30, realistically, right? We're talking about the Bucks, man. Giannis is the best player in the world. Like, it is what it is. Yeah.
I'd trade it if I could.
Yeah, and we've seen stretches of where Giannis was out, even for a bit, where they have enough talent to just carry the roster with Drew Holiday and, So, yeah, I don't think that pick is even viable right now.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think you hold on to it for a little bit longer. Because you have to see if it's something, right? To a degree, I think you have to at least bring it into the season. And if you deal it at the deadline for a solid young player, like, I don't know, I'd love to trade it for Chuma Okeke. But, I think you just bring it into the season. You see how the Bucks look. I don't think they'll be good. They'll be bad, but you got to try. So, I mean, we got 2 picks. We'll see if we end up with more. I doubt it unless an Eric Gordon trade happens and we end up bringing in another first-round pick. But it doesn't seem like they're too focused on trying to add more young players. It seems like they're more – what I would guess the strategy is condensing the assets they already have into better young players. So, like, moving up that – like trading Eric Gordon and that Bucks pick to move up in the draft, some kind of a thing. So where you're not adding like, oh, here's another guy who might not even be on the roster. Time for you to go to RGV and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't care where we land up next year, truthfully. I just think we already got our young core established to somewhat to where this is just going to be like icing on the cake, whatever we get. I don't think it's going to I don't want to say it's gonna not move the needle drastically, but I can see it helping us get better. Like one of the like our own pick, but the Bucks pick, like trade it. Like if we can get a good bench player or something, like just trade it for some value because I don't think it's gonna be valuable. Package it with KJ Martin and get a 6-man type caliber player or something like that after you move EG or something like that. Like I'm not too worried about that Bucks pick, truthfully.
I've been seeing some KJ Martin for Kobe White buzz going around lately. I don't know how people would feel about that. I don't think the Bucks pick would be involved. I guess really I'm going off topic, but it'd be interesting.
I'm not a big Kobe guy. I think that he's had a lot of good games against the Rockets, and all my friends who are Bulls fans, he's good like every 7 games, and the other 6 games he is ass. And I don't need more players like that on the roster. We have enough 1 in every 7 game players already on the team. I don't need him taking Jacob minutes.
I was about to say, you mean you don't want another Jacob? Can you imagine?
Yeah, I'm okay. And he's shorter, less. He's not
a great defender either. And
no.
Yeah, I think if we make any moves with that pick, it'll have to be at the point guard position. I still think there's a big hole at point guard, and not, this is no shot. KPJ needs a backup. Like, he needs a real backup, and we've seen when he gets hurt, the team goes to kaputs, and not even trying to win games, just trying to develop our players. You need to have at least decent point guard play for the whole game. So if they can I don't like relying on Ty and Knicks to fulfill that for us right now with all the talent we have. So I think hopefully they can maybe use that to get something like that in the market.
Yeah, I think we agree. That pick is wishy-washy. Here and there, it don't matter. As long as we ain't losing our pick, I think we can, because it controls our destiny for sure. It have direct correlation to our win-loss record. That Bucks pick, it could be we could be picking. They could win the championship, and it could be 31. So it's not that important to me. All right, Alley-oops, Coops, Houston Cougars segment coming at you.
Yeah, so this is the best recruiting class in Cougs history. They got 5-star forward Jarris Walker, who was a top 10-ish level recruit. 6'7", 6'8", mega athlete, can dribble the ball, elite defender, can shoot it a little bit. I think he's going to play the 4, a little bit of the 3 at the college level. And they also got someone who's a little bit of a sleeper next year, Terrence Arsenault, 6'7", 6'8", multiple time state champion, played over at Beaumont United. Just an elite defender, can shoot the ball a little bit, can create his own shot. Can get to the rim. One of the best movers that I have seen at his age and size. Just ridiculous. They also got guard Emmanuel Sharp, who's kind of interesting. Just those 3 guys are if I recall correctly, the 1st-rated, 3rd-rated, and 7th-rated all-time recruits for the Cougs. They're also returning their star guard, Marcus Sasser. He almost went out for the draft, and he was hurt last year, but he decided to come back, give it one more run. Easily the best player on the team, just an incredible shooter, creator for others. Can play 1 or the 2. He is awesome. They got guard Tremont Mark back, who sat out the end of last year as well. He was injured, arguably their 2nd best shooter. About 6'5", can create his own shot, crazy defender, crazy athlete. And then my sleeper for someone who's like a real prospect, I would have taken him with a first round pick this last year, Jamal Shed. About 6'1", but the only kind of small guard that I like, he's a great defender, elite mover, can really pass the ball. He penetrates into the paint so well. He gets in there at will, with a screen, without a screen. So crafty, can pass out, hit any angle, hit any big, all this different stuff. The shooting's a little bit behind schedule, but I think that's the easiest skill to develop in basketball. And I think that if he gets that to like a league average level, he's a starting guard on basically every team. He can play on or off the ball. So great. Someone who I think will be an NBA prospect in a few years in Ramon Walker, a sophomore wing. He was forced to play last year, and the shot really wasn't there, but his hustle, his intensity, his defensive footwork is top tier. He injured his hand and wasn't supposed to play at all last year, had to because of the injuries to Sasser and Mark. And I think that he is just going to be – people are going to be in for an awakening when they watch him this year. Hopefully that shot is back, and I think he'll be a real NBA prospect in the next few years. Going to be backed up by, upperclassmen bigs, Iwani Roberts and Reggie Chaney, and then a few other depth pieces. And, I'd have them as my top-ranked team going into this college year. I know I'm a little bit biased. I go there. I got a little bit of bias to me. But I think unabashedly they are the best team. They have some of the best young players coming in, as well as a great core, a great coach in Kelvin Sampson. They're going to be a lot of fun. I know, a lot of times I think they were more fun to watch than the Rockets this last year. And if you're in the Houston area, come on down to the Fertitta Center. Tickets are pretty cheap, easy to find. It's a nice arena, super easy to get to. And it's just a great time. Come on down, watch some Cougs games, watch them on TV. They're going to be incredible this year. This is going to be the year to get into watching them if you don't already.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Coop.
Yeah.
That's
Go Cougs.
Perfect spot to leave off at. Man, we all excited for this Rocket season. This August is a dead so far. So we just in the dog days of the summer for the NBA basketball. But like always, we're going to keep bringing y'all this fire content. Keep looking out for Frank's breakdown. Keep looking out for James writing articles on the Dream Shape. Keep looking out for Coop college and young prospect segments. We're going to keep bringing y'all this good fire, the good content. Thanks a lot from the Chop Shop. See y'all.